So welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed the workshop. I heard some really, really interesting discussions. I have been asked just to say to you, I think a lot of people still aren't signed up to Attendify. If you could sign up to it, there's loads of interesting discussions going on, questions, conversations, so really worth you doing that, both in the room and if you're live streaming. And can I also urge you, which I failed to do earlier, if you could get onto social media and tweet. We've got the hashtags there, so please do that. That'd be fantastic. Great stuff. So I'm now thrilled to introduce the National Poet of Wales, Ifor ap Glyn. Ifor was appointed in 2015, so the same year as the Sustainable Development Goals were agreed, and also that our Wellbeing of Future Generations Act was passed, so that feels very, very auspicious. The National Poet of Wales is a cultural ambassador, so in the words of the First Minister, Wales is a country where words and lyricism go hand in hand, and the role of the National Poet of Wales is a testament to the importance we place on language. So I'd like to welcome Ifor to the stage to read a poem he's written specially for this event.
Diolch yn fawr. Wel, pnawn da, guten Tag. Good afternoon. Ich freue mich sehr, hier für diese Konferenz in Berlin heute zu sein. This conference is all about creating a new dialogue between Wales and Germany and beyond, about creating a new narrative, but also about learning from each other. So this poem is auf Walisisch mit ein bisschen Deutsch, weil ich glaube, dass es wichtig ist, this discussion this discussion is conducted in all languages, in allen Sprachen. So, if you require, I'll read it in Welsh, I'll then read it in English, aber wenn du willst eine Übersetzung auf Deutsch. It can be found in the app, in the Attendify app. And one last note before I commence, I mention cerdd dant. Now, cerdd dant. Cerdd dant, das ist eine Besonderheit auf der walisischen Musik. Gedichte mit Hafenbegleitung. Poems set to a melody, but accompanied by a counter-melody, which sounds lovely, which I'm sure you will agree is a fitting image for our conference today. So, Cyd die Arhebu auf Deutsch. Wasch mir den Pelz, aber mach mich nicht nass. Golcha fy ffwr, ond paid ti anglychu. Myna fy feindydd heb orod ar berthu. Ond dyna'r hen drefn dreiliedig, yr hen gredo gwyrdroedig. Bellach mae padera newydd sydd angen I cydleisio, a dwy wlad anghymarus yn dechrau ymddiwygio, yn dechrau cydfryddwydio. Gemeinsam können wir Berge versetzen, nicht nur schön Wetter machen. Drwy fyw yn ôl ein hangen, nid yn ôl ein gwanc, byw o fewn y cyfri banc. Ni allwn ragor in saws und braus leben, disgwrs amgen sydd I angen. A'r cyd I arhebu yw dechrau'r cyfathrebu. A so, wusst di be? Wasch mir den Pelz und du kannst mich nass machen. Wedi'r cyfan, ond nid ydym yn hongian am seidenen faden, heb ddisgyn, mond o drwch blewyn, felly naw wfft I ragor fydd o haesa lwft. Daw cyd-deall o gyd-ddiarhebu, a dechrau gweithredu, ac yn harddwch yr rhannu bydd ein dwy wlad megis yn canu cerdant, alaw a chyfalaw lles ein plant. Aber wird alles für die Katze sein? Well, kann die bennill fwyn if? Nein. And in English. Sharing proverbs auf Deutsch. Wasch mir den Pelz, aber mach mich nicht nass. Wash my fur, but don't get me wet. I want the benefits without any debts. But that was the old way. now spent, a corrupt creed to which we now dissent. Together we'll voice new chants, new themes, as two different lands reform their regimes and start to share their dreams. Gemeinsam können wir Berge versetzen, nicht nur schön Wetter machen. As we live within our means, not governed by greed, living with what we need. We can no longer in Saus und Braus leben. We need an alternative conversation. And sharing proverbs begins a new revelation. Also, you know what? Wasch mir den Pelz und du kannst mich nass machen. After all, we're just hanging am seidenen Faden, kept from falling by the smallest margin. We won't be bluffed by yet more heißer Luft. Sharing proverbs, we become birds of a feather. We start to work together, and in the beauty of sharing, our two lands awake, singing a kind of kerdant, weaving melody and descant for our children's sake. Aber wird alles für die Katz sein? Well, not if I scratch your back and you scratch mine. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Ifor. Dankeschön. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone would agree that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. And we're going to look forward to hearing from you again at this evening's reception, to which you're all invited, and I hope you'll all come. So the next slot, just before lunch, is one looking particularly at the civil society perspective. And one of the key features of our approach in Wales is the involvement of civil society in the Sustainable Development Agenda, and I think I've already talked around in really creating our goals. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Ruth Marks, the Chief Executive Officer of the Wales Council for Voluntary Action, and Dr. Rupert Graf Strachwitz from the Maecenata Foundation, who are going to join us up on the stage to give us the civil society perspective.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be able to share some comments. Before I start, I must say that I'm not an SDG expert. My expertise, if any, is civil society, so that's sort of my viewpoint. Also, I do want to say I'm not going to focus on what I've sort of heard in the workshops in the form of results. They're up on screens and things, and I'm sure they'll be shared with all of you. But I do want to make some sort of rather more general remarks. There are 8 of them, and needless to say, it'll take me about 20 minutes for each of them, so just bear with me. Yes. Now, first remark is, and this came out very, very clearly, and it's actually, a truism, that public governance is undergoing a most disruptive innovation. Any ideas our forefathers had on how the public domain should be governed are no longer true. We're in a very different sort of situation. The only flaw is that a lot of governments, public bodies, haven't actually quite realized that yet. They still think of themselves as being in the driver's seat and actually, regulating and having all the ideas, but it's simply not true. Other actors involved in governance are civil society, but it's also business, it's individual citizens, and it's academia, of course, all kinds of other people. And so I think what we do need to learn is to involve all these different partners in public governance if we go about anything. My second remark is that what we are witnessing at the moment is a breakdown of the sort of European nation-state concept. I realize that nation within the UK is used in a different sense, but what I'm talking about here is the nation-state, United Kingdom, Germany, France, these kind of things. And what we are witnessing is a breakdown. We have what the EU likes to call sub-state actors, becoming more and more active, and active in a global sense, in the global arena. We have what again the EU calls regional bodies, like Wales, like Bavaria, like Aquitaine, Flanders, whatever, getting very, very much involved in shaping the future of the world. And it was most impressive, really, to hear what Wales is doing in this respect and how it's really sort of going forward in a very, very strong way and accepting a global responsibility, which, again, might not have happened even a generation ago. I said that civil society had become one of the sort of important players in all this. And this is definitely so, but what we do have to see is where are the limits of civil society action and of civil society intervention. Civil society can generate a lot of ideas. Civil society can help implement a lot of things. Civil society can even out all kinds of sort of difficulties. But when it comes to regulation, that is not a job that civil society can take on. And this is sometimes forgotten. We sometimes find civil society organizations, especially the large ones, trying to regulate. And this cannot be. And we had some very good examples how civil society prepares for legislation, but then obviously it's up to our representative bodies, our parliaments, to then actually pass it into law. Number 4 is, and that's important when we're talking about civil society, and it came out quite well, we must stop everybody finding her or his own definition. We must get a working definition going that everybody can accept and work on. We can have an academic discussion. I'm an academic. We can have an academic discussion. Should civil society include this? Should it exclude that? But if we're talking in the public domain, if we're having a public discourse, we must have a common definition of what civil society is about. Number 5, somebody said civil society was bottom up and couldn't possibly be top down. And indeed, he went on to say that if it was top down, it wouldn't work. Well, at this point, I would add a slightly critical remark. This would include civil society discussions or discussions within civil society. And I would say, sorry, that what we had in the workshops was a pretty top-down approach. Not only a workshop, a sub-workshop, a sub-sub-workshop, and a sub-sub-sub-workshop, but also the questions were pre-designed, and now you must do this, and now you must do that. If you get 8 people around the table, they're perfectly capable of finding what they want to discuss. And generating ideas is a fundamentally unorganizable process. And if you get people in a civil society sense, in a civil society context, everybody is a professional of sorts. Everybody is included, and it's very often the most improbable person present who will come up with the best idea at some point. Some people have the ideas at their fingertips, some people take a bit longer, but in the end, it's usually quite good to just let people develop what they want to say, what they want to think about, and something good will come out of it. So top-down participation indeed doesn't always work. Number 6, civil society these days has become a kind of a buzzword. Everybody loves having civil society in. On every government document at some point you will have the word civil society. And what we need to do is fill it with some sort of content. And the content, and again we had a wonderful example, is about engagement, about citizens engaging in the public domain, in what is happening around them, in their local community, in their regional, national, global community, in their civil society community, wherever. it's sometimes difficult to generate this engagement, and it has to be done very sort of subtly. Somebody said, get them to have a meal together. That's wonderful. It gets people to sort of talk about something else, and they suddenly feel they belong to the same kind of a community. And very often it just implies talking and talking and talking again, because it's not on the very first go that they'll really be active. There's this wonderful film, I'm sure many of you have seen it at some point, yes, I'm sure it's an American film, of some person who has a bright idea and wants to get other people to join, and he has a sort of placard, and there he is, trying to get people to join, and it takes him a very long time to have the second person come and join him. And it takes him not quite as long for the third person to come and join him, and then number 2 and number 3 start attracting people, and it's quicker and quicker, and then in the end you have huge crowds assembling, simply because it takes a little time to sort of make them all engaged. And I think that's something that really has to be gone through in an honest sort of way. Number 7, and this is why we're all doing this, no real solutions to real problems and challenges can be reached without citizens engaging. And citizens, for that matter, engage in civil society organizations and in what is now called unorganized or spontaneous civil society. I have some numbers for Germany. 80% of civic engagement is in civil society organizations. I'm sure it's more or less the same in Wales and as everywhere else. And we heard some beautiful cases in point in the workshop. So it's these small organizations and large organizations where people come together and engage that are so terribly important to actually move the issues and move the agenda. Finally, and I'll give you a tiny little story on this, there was a king of Prussia, Frederick the Great's father, called the Soldier King, although he never went to war. But he did go around Potsdam, where he lived, and beat people with a stick and cried out, "You must love me." Well, obviously this didn't work very well, and it can't work very well. So there is no sort of coercing people into engaging or into becoming part of anything. You have to convince them, you have to persuade them. They sometimes take an awful lot of time. But in small units, it's usually just that tiny bit easier than in a huge, big, and rather sort of amorph kind of organization. So education, and that was one of the words up on the screen there at the end, is absolutely vital. Educate people to engage, and things then will happen on their very own. Thank you very much.
Guten Tag, hello, and I'm keeping an eye on my colleagues at the back of the room because they're going to give me an indication of 5 minutes or 4 or 3 or 2 before lunch. I'm just going to see, yeah, we're okay for 5 minutes or for 4? You just tell me, and thank you very much, Tanya. Okay, fine. So I think I can do what I'm hoping to do. Let's give it a go. So on the screen behind me, it says Wales Council for Voluntary Action, and that's the organisation that I've led for the past 5 years. And we are the leading organisation for voluntary organisations, the third sector in Wales. Now, I was expecting other colleagues this morning, especially colleagues who had the opportunity to stand at this podium, to use a phrase that I've often heard about Wales, that we are a small, clever and connected country. I haven't heard that in this room, so I thought, oh, that's okay, I can use that. But what I will also say is that, as Rupert was commenting, civil society is absolutely core to everything that goes on in Wales. And we have been really active, really active in the sustainable development space in Wales over many, many years. Of the 3 million population in Wales, WCVA's research indicates that 1 in 3 people regularly give their time as volunteers, whether for the small, informal community groups that Rupert just referred to, or for internationally known agencies such as the Red Cross. Some people give their time to raise money, and the yellow daffodil badges that you'll see on some of the colleagues here today are fundraising badges for one of the main cancer charities in Wales, Marie Curie Cancer Care. And the daffodil, I hope I'm right in saying this to the national poet in front of me, is the national flower of Wales. At the weekend, we celebrated St. David's Day, our national day, and a day particularly when people tend to give daffodils and to wear something that might indicate that connection with Wales. So what about civil society in Wales? Well, we are supported by unique legislation passed by Welsh Government 20 years ago. The third sector scheme supports organised engagement with elected politicians and civil servants. It is a source of great pride for the government and for the sector. However, with the unprecedented change and uncertainty that we all have ahead of us, we need to think about the next steps. This event, The Future Is Now, and certainly the workshops that I had the chance to attend this morning on the economy and energy, is an absolutely excellent place to develop some of those conversations. Just in reference to the workshops, the main points I noted were around the importance of ideas and collaboration, with great examples from Germany and Wales that included a common good balance sheet, the importance of wind and marine energy, from photos of a Fauve van in beautiful countryside with a rainbow behind it, and even a headstand performed by an economist who is also a ballet dancer. We have heard this morning about the groundbreaking legislation in Wales, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. In order to ensure that people's voices, that place-based work and making the act a reality on the ground, much more needs to happen. Systems are useful, but culture and behaviours need to change in order to maximise the full benefits of proper co-production and partnership work. I just want to refer briefly to the UK withdrawal from the EU. We are currently in a transition process in relation to the EU institutions, but we do not want to leave our networks. It's really important to say that we are not leaving Europe. Indeed, we are keen to build more and more connections. And this is one of the reasons why I was so pleased to be able to reconnect with Rupert Strachwitz from the Maecenata Foundation and his colleagues from the German-British Society, and so glad that the Society President, Hans Horstmann, is here today. So to close, I will refer to my earlier comments about civil society and individual action. Why do people volunteer? Because they're passionate about something. There are causes that they believe in. They're just blooming angry about something. So as a civil society perspective, my final comment is that we might be on the brink of a revolution that Jane Davidson spoke to us about this morning. We certainly need to put some real energy behind the evolution of our ideas. But my call to action is to encourage us all to collaborate better and to share power more fairly and more equitably. Thank you very much indeed. Diolch yn fawr. Dankeschön.
Thank you so much to Rupert and to Ruth. I think that was a fantastic way to end the morning session with that sort of passion, that call to action. Civil society is so important in its own right, but also as that bridge into communities. Thank you so much for that focus. I think really, really important. So I'm going to let you know, go off to lunch very quickly. Please do join us again this afternoon for we've got some fantastic speakers, we've got our future leaders, and we need to be hearing from them about how we can actually face the challenges that we have and find solutions. Do please also join us for the reception, the Wales reception. It's up on the 7th floor in the foyer Berlinerdom. Magnificent view of the cathedral, and also some lovely Welsh products, food, drink, gin, I think I've been promised. So please join us up there. We'll also hear from Ifor again, as well as our Future Generations Commissioner and from our Berlin office. So please do come and join us there. And finally, get involved in the rapid networking events. Grab your lunch, go and talk to people. We really want to share ideas, swap solutions. So get out there, enjoy the lunch and network. Thank you.